Hello? Marion, it's me.
Why, there you are, Jonathan. You're just in time to help me sort through these boxes. The library has received so many generous donations this year. I just don't know how I will ever find the time to organize and catalog all of these books.
Well, I'm happy to help you, LTM. Should I start with this crate I found on the library steps? It says from the Western American Explorers Club of San Francisco.
Oh my, how intriguing. Back when I was a girl, I knew some remarkable people who belonged to that club. Go ahead, dear, and open up the box. Swiftly now, Jonathan.
This one looks interesting. The 21 Balloons, Escape from Krakatoa, Travelogue of Professor William R. Waterman Sherman. I think I remember learning about a place called Krakatoa in geography class. Wasn't it the site of the biggest volcanic explosion of all times?
That's correct. The Pacific Islands of Krakatoa blew up back in 1883. They say that the explosion could be heard from 3,000 miles away, and that the violence of the eruption caused dust, ashes, and stones to be hurled 17 miles high in the air.
Jiminy crickets! How could anyone escape from a blast that size? And I thought Krakatoa was completely uninhabited. What was Professor Sherman even doing there?
Yes, it is all very mysterious. Perhaps his travelogues hold the answers. Hand me my reading glasses. Let me see. It looks as if he was planning to travel the world in a hot air balloon. Here, listen. The grounds surrounding the launch site were crowded with spectators. Among them were reporters from various newspapers, public officials, dignitaries, and a host of curious onlookers eager to witness their first hydrogen balloon launch and wish the crew and captain well.
I would like to thank everyone for a most enthusiastic send-off. I'm Professor William Waterman Sherman, teacher of mathematics, now retired, amateur inventor, and balloon enthusiast. Please allow me to introduce my traveling companions who have kindly agreed to accompany me on my adventure. Gulliver Swift, the navigation expert. I'll be in charge of the maps.
Amelia Honeychurch. I am a naturalist specializing in ornithology, which is the study of all kinds of birds. Dorothy Bly, photojournalist. I will be documenting my travels with my trusty camera.
Ilias Paul, our resident meteorologist. Watching the weather is my job on our voyage.
Professor, Brad wants to know why a balloon journey and why now?
Splendid question. The best way of travel if you aren't in any hurry at all, if you don't care where you're going, if you don't like to use your legs, if you want to see everything quite clearly, and if you don't want to be annoyed by any choice of direction, is a balloon. In a balloon, you can decide only when to start and usually when to stop. The rest is left entirely to nature.
How fast you will go and where is left to the winds.
At the age of 66, after 40 years of teaching arithmetic, I feel these old bones are ready for a little excitement and uncertainty. In this giant balloon, my friends and I will float for a whole year exploring the hidden corners of the globe.
Professor, the seagulls are heading out to sea. And judging by their altitude, atmospheric conditions are ideal for our launch. We had best take our leave. Farewell, everyone. With open eyes, hearts, and minds, we take to the skies. Leaving our destiny to the winds, we begin our journey of adventure and discovery.
The first 6 days of our trip were perfect, calm and uneventful. But the 7th day was catastrophic. I shall never forget it for as long as I live. Just about everything went wrong, and our dreams of spending a year in a balloon were shattered. Oh my word.
Hey, Gulliver. Do you see that small speck in the horizon?
It appears to be a small volcanic island, mostly mountains in, with a column of smoke rising from the top of it.
And look, a colony of Pacific gulls are coming out to welcome us. Ooh, hungry seagulls.
The perfect opportunity to unload some of this garbage I started piling up. Our bastard is starting to smell pretty foul.
Frog, stop! Those are jerks for their mobbing behaviors. And look, one of the birds is perched on the very top of the balloon, which what looks like the remains of Wednesday's smoked turkey. Oh no, more gulls have spotted the turkey. It's become a fully fledged feeding frenzy.
Brace yourselves, we're wrapping over that turkey carcass. One of the gulls has punched up with his beak. You're losing altitude.
We have to try and touch down on that island, or we will land in the ocean and be devoured by hungry sharks.
Holy pretzels, Auntie. Things sure look bleak for the professor's crew.
They certainly do, Jonathan. But don't underestimate their resourcefulness. Listen. We saw immediately that at the rate we were descending, we would be in the ocean long before we reached the island. We started throwing things overboard to make the basket lighter so that we would fly above water longer. A school of sharks was following us in the water beneath. We were desperate. A minute or two later, we found ourselves being dragged across the beach of the island, and the giant deflated bag of our balloon came to rest on the top of a tall palm tree. Exhausted, burnt by the sand, and too weak to crawl out of the sun into the shade, we must have gone to sleep on the beach.
Great snakes. That was a narrow escape.
Just the first of many close calls, Jonathan.
Wake up, gotta get out of this house. Wake up, wake up! Am I dead? Is this heaven?
No, good man, this isn't heaven. It's the Pacific island of Krakatoa. But I always thought that Krakatoa was uninhabited. I always heard that the volcanic island mountain made living on the island impossible. This is Krakatoa, all right? And we here are most pleased that the rest of the world are still convinced Krakatoa is uninhabited. We are Mr. and Mrs. F. Allow me to introduce my associates, Miss C and her daughter, C1.
C1? C1 what? Is that it?
Yeah, simply C1. I will have to explain all about that, but later, of course.
My name is Professor William Waterman Sherman, and these are my traveling companions. Amelia Honeychurch, Dorothy Bly, Gulliver Swift, and Phileas Fogg. Enchanté, you are our first visitors. I'm quite certain you will be rather impressed with the way we live and the various aspects of our island. We sincerely hope you'll be impressed, because we believe in keeping this place absolutely secret, so you'll be finding yourself spending the rest of your lives here as our guests. Mr. F., where are our manners? Our guests must be exhausted after their frightening ordeal. Quite right, Miss C. I would be honored to invite you all to stay at our house for as long as you like. I'm sure you'll find the quarters and amenities quite satisfactory.
We are all a little worse for wear, and we would like to thank you for your generosity and gratefully accept your offer.
Listen, Jonathan. As we entered the village, we were greeted by a remarkable sight. We noticed in this order a replica of George Washington's Mount Vernon house, a typical British cottage with a thick, thatched roof,
A lovely Chinese pagoda, a building of a typical Dutch architecture, and a dozen other buildings all representing all kinds of countries. Mr. F's house was a miniature version of the Palace of Versailles, surrounded by gardens that made one feel as if they were strolling through the streets of Paris. Naturally, we were gobsmacked.
This is quite the place you have here, F. Didn't expect to find this in the middle of the South Pacific.
Mr. F's home is rather marvelous, but Krakatoa boasts wonders even more impressive than this. Did you happen to catch a glimpse of our spectacular mountain during your rather hasty descent?
It has been quiet all morning, which is exceedingly rare. It is seldom quiet for more than an hour at a time.
When the mountain starts rumbling, you'll feel the whole island move violently beneath you. You'll find this to be quite frightening and disagreeable at first.
We all did. It'll take you some time to get what we call mountain legs.
This is why Krakatoa was always considered unfit to live on.
I couldn't be more completely convinced. That's the peculiar thing about nature. It guards its rarest treasures with the greatest care.
Our Mount Clinton is an astonishing secret, a sight so awe-inspiring as to make reality of the most imaginative fairy tale.
You see now, ladies and gentlemen, the inside of our mountain is a chamber, where the walls, the floors, and the ceiling are hewn out of the hardest of all of nature's minerals. Pure, clear, dazzling diamonds.
In our mine, the floor is covered with diamond boulders and diamonds as big as cobblestones. You wade ankle deep in diamond pebbles and can juggle diamonds the size of baseballs.
So now that you know about our diamond mine, do you understand why I have to remain our permanent guests?
We do indeed.
Later on, after you've had time to think this all over carefully, I'm convinced that you won't have any desire to leave Krakatoa at all. There is fabulous wealth and power attached to owning a share of the mine.
You all own a share now because ownership is divided equally among all who know that they exist.
So now that you're here, you're automatically a citizen of Krakatoa. You own a share of the mine. You could possibly spend the amount of money you're worth at the present cost of diamonds in other countries. You'd have to spend $1 billion a day for the rest of your life.
But if you took your share of diamonds, loaded them in a freighter, and carried them with you to another country, you would be making a horrible mistake.
But why?
I can explain that. Diamonds are priced as high as they are because they are extremely rare jewels. Unloading a boatload at any port in the world would cause the diamond market to crash. The price of diamonds would drop to next to nothing, and your cargo would scarcely be worth more than a shipload of broken glass.
Precisely. Every year we take trips to some foreign country around the world, a different country every time. We take with us a small collection of diamonds for ourselves to the brokers in the country we visit. Then we buy our supplies for the years and return to Krakatoa. Mr. F, enough chit-chat. Our guests must be parched and ravenous after their... Shall we take them to Mr. B's cottage and make them some breakfast and meet the others?
We entered the British cottage and walked into the dining room where some 80 other people were eating breakfast.
Dorothy Bly, Amelia Honeychurch, Gulliver Swift, and Phileas Fogg, the new citizens of Krakatoa.
Mr. F, before we become any more confused, will you please tell us the history of Krakatoa?
Will you please tell us how all of these lovely people got here?
Could you please explain how each house is entirely different in architecture?
Would you please tell us why everyone here has the names of the letters of the alphabet?
Let me start. 8 years ago, a young sailor now known as Mr. M, that's me, was shipwrecked off the island of Krakatoa in a tremendous hurricane.
He landed on the island in good physical condition, which was extremely fortunate for him, because the rest of the crew of the ship he was on were drowned in the ocean.
He made his way from the shelter of the jungle and found a hole in the wall of a mountain, which he thought to be a cave. This is how our diamond mine was discovered.
He built himself a raft and set to the sea one afternoon. He took with him only 4 diamonds, 3 the size of marbles and 1 the size of a baseball.
Before long, he spotted a ship, which picked him up. It was headed for the United States.
When Mr. M arrived in San Francisco, he sold the 3 smaller diamonds to diamond for approximately $10,000 apiece.
He bought himself a ship and set about searching the globe for 20 families to join him back on Krakatoa.
He picked the families with care. Each family was required to have 2 things in order to be chosen.
They had to have 1 boy and 1 girl between the ages of 3 and 8. They had to have definite creative interests, such as interest in music, architecture, medicine, science, painting, and writing.
These 2 requirements would not only assure future generations of Krakatoa's citizens, but also he assumed that people with creative interests are not liable to be too bored on a small desolate island, and people with inventive interests can more easily cope with unusual situations.
When we first arrived here, we set up a constitution that you might find unusual. It's sort of a restaurant government.
There are 20 families on the island, each running a restaurant. We made a law here that each family goes to a different restaurant each day of the month around the village square in rotation. This way, no family had to work for more than once every 20 days.
Each family is named for the first letter of their country of origin. For example, I'm Mr. B and from Britain. My wife, Mrs. B, and my kids are B1 and B2.
Each family's restaurant serves the food of their nation and is built in the style of architecture from their country. During your meals, you'll be entertained with traditional music, dancing, and poetry.
Our international restaurants give a variety to our days, give a great variety of food to look forward to, and our houses are as varied and international as pavilions at a World's Fair.
I have a question. Your community is peaceful and fair, yet you all come from completely different cultures and backgrounds and speak different languages. Surely communicating must be a serious challenge. What do you do?
Well, we speak the universal language, of course.
Australia, Brazil, Turkey, Canada, India, Sweden,
That's my kind of country. So, the Asian American restaurants serve only real American cooking. The B's run a British fish and chip shop. There's a Chinese restaurant. There's a Dutch restaurant. There's a Egyptian restaurant. And Mr. F runs a French restaurant. It's as simple as that, all the way up to the letter T. To make the restaurant rotation work, the Krakatoas had to change their calendar. There are 20 days to a Krakatoan month and 18 months to a Krakatoan year.
So did the professor's crew mind ending their journey and staying on the island forever?
On the contrary, dear boy, it says here, we found ourselves in a peculiar but rather happy position of being permanent guests at Krakatoa. Comfortably installed at the home of Mr. F, we set about following the daily calendar, meeting our hosts from around the world, while sampling a variety of international food and entertainment.
perpetual guests, left with no work to do, we were fast getting to think about living of terms of holidays back home. So on this hot Sunday, we invited Mr. and Mrs. F to join us for a swim.
They thought this would be a fine idea, so we made our way through the outer fringe of the jungle to a nicely cleared fine coral beach. On our short time on Krakatoa, we had become quite used to walking about on the moving landscape. I was amazed at how fast I had acquired my mountain legs and felt rather proud of myself. Then suddenly, the whole of Krakatoa was rocked violently from end to end, and we were all thrown abruptly to the ground.
Well, I'll be jitterbug though, Marion. Just imagine living in the shadow of an active volcano, never knowing when it might erupt and spill molten lava and sulfurous fumes and ashes in all kinds of directions.
I don't have to imagine it, Jonathan. There is something that I have been meaning to tell you. You see, it's no accident that Professor Sherman's travel log was delivered to our doorsteps. Jonathan, when I was a child, my name wasn't Marion. It was simply M1.
Well, Marion, are you telling me that you live in Krakatoa?
Yes, Jonathan, it's true, I was there. Your maternal grandfather is Mr. M, the shipwrecked voyager who discovered the diamond mine and who later founded the country of Krakatoa.
So that makes Grandma and Dad.
Grandma was Mrs. M, and my little brother, your father, is M too.
But why did you and Dad keep this a secret from me all these years? Why didn't you tell me this before?
We thought you would never believe such an incredible story. But now that we have the professor's travelogue as a proof, it was time we knew the truth. The time has come to share a story of our final days on Krakatoa.
Well, holy guacamole, didn't see that coming.
Why do you people insist on living here on this dormant volcano when with a handful of diamonds you can live a life of lavish ease and comfort in any other country?
Your question is a puzzler, and there is really no logical answer to it. Diamond mines have a peculiar magnetic effect on us. We couldn't live happily in any other country. We would be haunted with the unbelievable dream of the unheard wealth back on the island.
We can't take our diamonds, that's all of our diamonds, to another country without destroying their value. We are slaves to our own piggishness. We've trapped ourselves in a diamond prison.
But how can we live happily here under the constant threat of being blown sky high? And now that I think of it, this whole island is like a turkey stuffed with nitroglycerin. The surface of the earth here is obviously activated by molten lava.
Just imagine what would happen then. The cold water from the Pacific suddenly coming in contact with the molten lava, this hollow rumbling shell would suddenly find itself like a covered kettle of boiling water on a stove. The resulting steam would cause pressure enough to blow the top right off the whole island. One could smash into such an explosion. What good would your diamonds do you then?
Jupiter's Thunderman, you're right. We can no longer live here under the ever-present thought of extinction. We need a plan to escape Krakatoa.
And fast. The seismic activity on the island is getting more intense by the minute.
And I have observed some unusually restless behaviors amongst the island's pink-billed parent finches. There's a great deal of anecdotal evidence to suggest that animals can sense when the volcano is about to erupt.
We have no time to lose. We need an invention that can safely evacuate 85 people in under 20 minutes. Our lives depend on it. Everyone remain calm. This island is populated by some of the most innovative and creative minds on the globe. If we put our heads together and think as one, there's nothing we can't do. So let's put on our thinking cap and let's get inventing.
agreed with. It was a flying platform, a huge wooden platform, big enough to take us all swiftly into the air within 10 minutes of warning from the mountain.
A platform capable of lifting 85 people? How did you plan to get that off the ground?
With balloons, 20 of them to be precise. In the moments prior to our departure, the balloons were inflated with hoses connected to tanks of compressed hydrogen.
So how did you land the balloon platform?
We didn't land the platform. Landing such a contraption would have been far too risky. The plan had always been to jump off. Each family on Krakatoa had a family parachute, another invention of ours. We each carefully chose the country we wished to visit next, and when we reached a comfortable distance, we leaped from the platform.
So what happened on the day of the evacuation? What made everyone decide that was finally time to leave the island?
Well, Jonathan, the seismic activity on the island reached an intensity and relentless none of us had ever experienced before. The walls of our homes began cracking and crumbling as their very foundations heaved and pitched. We were terrified.
else notice that the earth seems to be moving with increased violence?
Now that you mention it, the rumblings of the mountains seem to be thundering in full force.
Listen up, everyone. The moment has arrived. We must evacuate Krakatoa or face being vaporized in a volcanic eruption.
But how can we abandon our island paradise? How can we leave our beautiful homes and our diamonds behind?
If I may, my friends and I have only lived on Krakatoa a short time, but the friendships we made are among the most important of our lives. Surely this island may hold extraordinary riches, but they are worthless and can bring us no joy and no true happiness without people that we care about to share them with. Our family and friends are what truly make us rich and are infinitely more precious than all the diamonds on Krakatoa.
I want all the children to run to the platform and take the covers off the balloons immediately.
All the adults need to run quickly and get the family's parachute, and then dash to the balloon platform.
Sherman, you and your people need to take whatever food Miss Diaz prepared for you tonight and rush it to the platform. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
Well, once again, with open eyes, hearts, and minds,
And with friends by our side, we take the skies and embark on a new journey.
Not just a journey, Fog, an adventure.